This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Hello, Scott. It's great to have you on the podcast. You have a wealth of different businesses which we're going to delve into. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity and grateful to be here.
Good, lovely. So we're going to go back to your origin story. So tell me about your HR degree at Temple University.
So that was actually completely by accident. The HR or human resources degree, the backstory was I got into business actually when I was a sophomore in college. Okay. I started off at the University of Pittsburgh, which is about 4 hours west of where I grew up in Philadelphia. Okay. And my father had made some poor business decisions at a prior business that he had to leave because they were under investigation. And then my father actually is the one that got into the fitness business, which our first gym in 1997, 1998 called Old City Ironworks. Okay. 6 months after we opened, my father ended up getting sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. Okay. And as a sophomore in college, I then had to leave the University of Pittsburgh, re-enroll at Temple University, okay. And I had to take over our family business. And I learned a lot through that experience. And, you know, when you start off in your entrepreneurial journey at 19, where you're psychologically unemployable since day one. So I've never worked for anybody. I've always been my own boss. Right. But when you learn that running a business is a lot about recruitment and retention and dealing with the environment and the culture of the business, you know, I was actually doing HR without even realizing that I was doing it. So as I progressed in running my family business full-time, getting my certification in sports nutrition, my certification in group fitness and personal training, as well as running the company, but also going to college full-time. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would be at school by 8 a.m. and I would go to class from 8 to noon. And then I would leave right from class and I would drive right down to the gym, get there by 1 o'clock, and I would stay there till 9 o'clock every single day. And that was my life for a better part of 3.5 years. When I was getting to my senior year, I remember sitting in my advisor's office, and I was, you know, obviously getting ready to pick my classes, and she goes, "So you do plan on graduating this year, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, I got, 15 credits left. I'm 15 credits left. I'm really excited." She goes, "Well, to graduate, you do realize you have to have a major." I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm a business major." She goes, "Yes, you're in the Fox School of Business, but you need to declare a major within the school." And I'm like, "Oh," and I'm like, "So what have I done class-wise that has gotten me close to some sort of degree?" And she goes, "Well, you have 15 credits left. You're 2 classes away within those 15 credits in getting an HR degree." I'm like, "Sign me up. I'm good." So that's how I ended up declaring my major as human resources. But like I said, it was very fitting. The education that I learned in being an entrepreneur and running my business and going to school at the same time, it was the perfect mix. But, you know, picking human resources was in absolute alignment to what I was doing at the gym. So it was a perfect fit. I did very well, grateful that I went to college through the entire process. And, you know, I lost about a year's worth of credits transferring from Pittsburgh to Temple. But I still ended up graduating in 5 years, and just, you know, grateful for the experience and everything that I learned.
So something that struck me right from an early age, you had you had a good work ethic. You weren't scared of working hard and doing multiple things. Where do you think that came from?
You know, it's one of those things that I guess was born into me. It was in my DNA. My father was always a hard worker, still is. He's going to be 68 in December. He still personal trains people to this day, still competes in bench press contests around the world. My mom still works. Even though they're not together, they're still, you know, building their careers.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, who's still with us, he just turned 92. Up until he had a stroke about 10 years ago, when he was in his early 80s, he was still working as a pharmacist. He wasn't planning on stopping. And that's the thing, you know, why, you know, I love what I do now and everything that I do, just like we were talking about in the pre-show, all the different businesses I have.
Mm.
I don't consider them work.
Mm.
They're fun. They're my passion.
Yeah.
And, you know, me and my wife, we talk about it all the time. You know, I said to her this morning, actually, you know, I said, I just realized, I said, every time I get in bed and we turn the lights off and go to sleep, I have a smile on my face because I'm just so happy with what I'm doing. So I never considered anything that I was doing or anything that I saw being done as hard work. I just saw it as doing what you're passionate about. And I have that drive. Like I have to cut myself off or I could work all day because I love what I do. And that's a very special thing.
That is that is inspiring. It really is inspiring because there are so many people that have jobs or even business owners that they're falling out of love with their business. So you're very fortunate and that you found your path. But we're going to talk about your path because it goes from various different areas. So your first business was East Falls Fitness, that you were there for 11 years. So I think it's clear now personal fitness is one of your passions.
Yes. Well, that was the third gym. I didn't list the other two businesses, but when I signed up for LinkedIn,
right,
that was the gym that I was currently running at that time. So I had one gym, Old City Ironworks, from 1997 to 2003. And then I had a second location from 2002 to 2003. We sold both of those. And then we opened up East Falls in 2004. And I had that till 2016.
And so fitness was your passion. You did a HR degree. How do you marry those two together? Did you, in your business, were you making all of the HR decisions? Were you making all of the business decisions or the financial decisions? How did you sort of break that role, the different roles in the business?
Well, strangely enough, you know, I was making a lot of the decisions when my father was away. When my father came back, he basically took back over, you know, running the company. And I had to learn the hard way about how to run a business. So to make a long story short, when we opened up our second location in 2002, shortly after we opened it, we were actually approached by another family to buy both gyms for $1 million. And we sold them. We took the deal. At 24 years old, I became a millionaire. And in 2004, much like my LinkedIn profile says, we opened East Falls Fitness. And I did financially back the entire thing with my name. My parents didn't have any credit left after my father's incarceration. So, you know, it was a family business and I signed the dotted line that needed to be signed.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what that meant from a business standpoint, but 5 years later, this is now 2009, almost 2010, I was $1.5 million in liability debt. And that was a hard pill to swallow because you don't understand any of that until you actually go through it. But it wasn't until years later that I had to make some personal and financial decisions to move the gym in a different direction. In 2015, I was selling a property that I owned. There was about $35,000 worth of equity in the house that I was pulling out to invest. And when I was at closing, instead of getting a check for $35,000, I got a check for $837. And that was because I had signed a financial document early on that was using that house as collateral for the gym's fitness equipment.
Okay.
So when I sold the house, the bank took whatever money was left on the equipment. So, now my eyes were open. And at that point, I had asked my father to part ways, and I asked him to leave the gym and find somewhere else to train, which he obliged. He did not. There was no fighting. There was no yelling, arguing. We didn't talk for the better part of a year, but that was because I just needed some healing. I needed to move past that whole situation. So at that point, I stepped into the full role of everything. I had a general manager. I had a couple floor managers, but my cousin, who was more the finance and numbers guy, had left the gym about 2 years prior to that. So I was literally doing everything myself. But I did hire him. I had a business attorney. I had a business accountant. I made sure that I surrounded myself with the right people. And in early 2016, the fitness industry had really changed since the days that we opened 18 years prior. There was a lot more competition. There was a lot of saturation in the market. And the building that my gym was housed in was not being properly maintained. And that's to no fault by my landlords. They didn't have much equity themselves to put back into the gym, but to basically paint you a picture, when it rained outside, it rained inside too. And it just was not a conducive environment to run a successful business. And the gym at that point was losing about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And I was faced with some decisions. Now, like you stated, I had other businesses going. I had an online wellness business going. I had just launched my LinkedIn consulting and coaching. So I had income coming in, but that income was getting pushed back into the gym to keep it afloat. So I was sitting with my attorney and we were going over the numbers. And he said, listen, you got two choices. Option A is you keep financing this gym yourself. Or option B is you file for personal bankruptcy. And when I heard the word bankruptcy, I didn't hear your life is about to be over. I heard your life is about to begin.
Okay, interesting.
Because this was my opportunity. It was my only way and opportunity to start with a clean slate, to truly live life on my terms. Because what I didn't know is I signed a document that had me as the personal guarantor of the lease of that gym. So whether that business succeeded or failed, because it was failing, I was financially liable for every dollar that was to be owed on that lease, which was an additional $400,000 worth of income and equity.
And that's the equipment, that's the employees, the rent, that's everything.
That was just the rent.
Just the rent.
That was just the rent. I was the guarantor of the lease. I was in a year to a 5-year extension. There were still 4 years left. And it was a no-brainer. I said, let's do it. Let's get the paperwork together. Tell me what I need to do. So July 1st of 2016, wow, almost 4 years ago to the day, I signed those papers to file for bankruptcy. I closed the gym 30 days later, and my case was dismissed October 15th of 2016. And, Mark, in all honesty, my life has never been the same. My businesses are flourishing and growing every single year, leaps and bounds. I met the woman of my dreams. We just bought our dream home, and I didn't allow my situations to stop me. I used those lessons to propel me to learn how to succeed better and more often. So seeking failure to learn the lesson of how to create success. And that's the path that I'm on now.
So the really interesting thing here, and it might be different from the UK. So I'm based in London in the UK. And if you file bankruptcy, as far as I know, you're in the UK, you struggle to get loans or credit, or it makes everything a lot harder for a period of time. I'm not sure if it's 7 years or 10 years or something like that. It makes definitely getting loans and things to start businesses hard. Is that the same in the US, or is it different?
Yeah, so it's 4 years and it remains on your credit report. Um, I was blessed and fortunate that I had substantial income coming in from my businesses. Outside, I didn't own a house at the time.
Okay.
I leased a car.
Mm.
I rented an apartment.
Mm.
So I had just gotten out of a divorce. So I was kind of rebuilding myself.
Mm.
And I didn't have much debt, personal. The personal debt I had was tied to the business. So I really was starting from ground zero.
Mm.
I rented for 5 years, and basically was able to buy a home. I couldn't get in the States, we have something called Fannie Mae traditional mortgages. But I had to get a different kind of mortgage because I was still about 6 to 7 months away from my 4 years. So I am paying a little bit more in interest right now.
Right.
But once the 4 years is up, I can actually go back and
Right.
I can refinance my house,
Yeah.
reduce the interest rate,
Yeah.
and reduce my mortgage payment. So I'm paying maybe an extra $500 or $600 a month right now than I should be, but it enabled us to get our home. And I have not, there's been challenges in getting certain things, but nothing. There's a solution to every problem. There are no brick walls. When I realized we couldn't get a traditional mortgage, okay, what are our other options? Well, here are your other options. So we just started shopping for new options. And if it's a matter of paying a little bit more upfront to reduce the cost later after the 4 years is up, okay, I'll pay an extra $500 a month for 7 months and then refinance after that. So it's all temporary inconveniences. So, every country is different, but I wasn't going to allow this. And my credit, 850 in the States is your top credit.
Okay.
And my one credit score, I'm 710, 715. So I'm in good credit standing. I have no credit cards. The only debt I have, again, is good debt. I own a car and I own a house. So I'm just grateful for that.
Awesome. Right, let's go into some of your businesses. So I'm fascinated by the Cellular Cleanse Coach the business you set up. So it says that you reduce cortisone levels, lower body fat, increase energy levels, and improve sleep.
Yes.
How do you do it? Tell me a little bit about it.
So in 2013, I was presented an opportunity when I was still owning East Falls Fitness and a personal trainer by one of my buddies, Joe, to take a look at an opportunity with a company called Isogenics. And they do have a presence now in the UK. And they are a health and wellness network marketing company that focuses on different solutions for different people. It could be weight loss. It could be muscle gain, performance, energy, healthy aging, even wealth creation. With any network marketing opportunity, you can create wealth.
Mm.
And it made sense because I was already doing nutrition and I was already recommending people different supplements and products.
Mm.
Why not recommend something that was my own? But, you know, again, you have to be a product of the product. And what I love about what Isogenics does is the cellular cleansing aspect, because I know the harm that stress has on our bodies. And when our bodies are stressed, our brains produce a chemical called cortisol. And what cortisol does, if there's too much, it basically slows your metabolism. And that's when people, they get visceral fat, which is the fat around the organs. And, you know, I was a competitive bodybuilder at one point. So I was looking to kind of get myself back into a good, steady routine. And I still cleanse to this day every Thursday. I've been cleansing once a week for the last 7 years. And
So what does the cleanse actually do? What do you do every week then?
So it's just a low caloric day. So it's either a cleanse liquid or a cleanse powder. It's a botanical blend. It's all natural, and basically it helps your body reduce its cortisol levels. So if you're reducing your cortisol levels and you're increasing your metabolism, your body will naturally burn fat. And then you have, you know, small snacks throughout the day. So I'll snack on, you know, cucumber, celery. If I want some protein, I'll have a couple egg whites. So it's just a low caloric day of snacking with the cleansing powder or liquid 1 day a week. So you're giving, the way that I describe it to people is this, you know, the one aspect of our bodies that we never give rest is our metabolisms. Think about it. You know, we go to sleep at night, so we're giving our body rest, right? And we're giving our brain rest. But then what's the first thing we do? We wake up, we eat. What's the last thing we do before bed? We eat. So taking 1 day off a week and just allowing your metabolism to reset, allowing your body to reset, allowing your stress levels to decrease, compounded over time, you will get to your fixed weight, which is a weight that your body can maintain. Once you maintain a weight that you're happy at for 9 months, that becomes something called your true weight. And this is absolutely true. You may fluctuate 2 or 3 pounds up or 2 or 3 pounds back, but you will always land in the middle. So your body automatically does what it needs to do to stay in that range. So for me, I've had kind of like a dramatic turn. When I used to compete in bodybuilding in the off season or bulking, I used to weigh, I'm only 5'9". I used to weigh anywhere between 200 to 205 pounds. Now, yes, I have a lot of muscle, but I was definitely carrying a lot of fat. And then I would diet down to 171 pounds for a bodybuilding show. In 14 weeks, I would lose about 35 pounds, which was way too much.
Yeah.
Now, I've retired from that, obviously, years ago. Now, with, you know, the cleansing aspect and healthy intuitive eating, I don't weigh my food, I don't measure my food. I'm an intuitive eater now. I know exactly what my body needs, and I still cleanse once a week. I don't limit myself to anything. If I want a cupcake, I'll have a cupcake. If I want ice cream, I'll have ice cream. I make healthy choices. I now maintain a healthy weight of anywhere between 165 to 168 pounds all year round for the last 5 years. So it's really given me the ability to get my life back and to simplify my life and understand that I don't have to have any more food addictions or limitations. If I want to go out to dinner with friends, I can have a regular meal, not feel guilty about it. You know, I live by the 90-10 rule. You know, 90% you eat as healthy as you can. 10% you can fall off the reservation. It's not going to affect because 90% of what you're doing is helping you.
And so what's your view on fasting versus the cleansing of cellular? What's the differences? What's the similarities? Do you obviously don't fast, you use this other technique, but how does fasting fit into that as well?
I mean, as a wellness professional, I just can't see how it's beneficial to starve your body for a full day. I just don't. Your body still requires different nutrients. It still requires certain vitamins every day.
Mm.
And that's what was so attractive about isogenics, is because even though you are cleansing once a day, or people can do back-to-back days, it's just a low caloric day. So if I'm, just as an example, I eat 6 times a day and I take in anywhere between, I would say, about 4 to 450 calories per meal. So I eat about 2,500 calories a day.
Mm.
On a cleanse day, I'm doing maybe a quarter of that. I reduce my calories to about 5 to 800 for the day, which is still, I'm not starving myself. I'm not hungry,
Mm.
but it's just a low caloric day. And then that next day, I go right back to my normal day, and it helps continue to reduce body fat, but more importantly, my visceral fat. You know, the most dangerous fat that all human beings have
Yeah.
is the fat that is not visible to
Yeah.
our eyes.
Yeah.
Because we all have fat around our liver, around our kidneys,
Yeah.
around our gallbladder, our intestines, our stomach, our heart. The only way to attack that is to do it in a healthy way,
Mm.
where you're giving your body that time to burn that visceral fat, to make sure that your organs are running at the most optimal way they can be.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. So you've had 3 published books, which is fantastic. Your first one was called "Good Guys Always Win."
Mm-hmm.
So that's a sort of counter the sort of the saying that the good guys never win. So how do the good guys win?
Well, I was bullied and picked on a lot of my life. And, you know, it was kind of like the identity that I took to. So I was a doormat. People walked all over me. I was the butt of all the jokes. It's just the role that I was accepting. And it wasn't until I got much older, after doing a lot of personal development and self-development, that I realized that, you know, that doesn't have to be my identity anymore. I can stand firm. I can say no to certain things. I can let people know how I feel and not worry about their feelings, because it's about me first.
Mm.
And I know there's so many people out there, and, you know, the thing that you hear when we grow up in school is, you know, good guys always finish last, right?
Mm.
And I'm here to tell people that that's just not true. You know, good guys do always win. You know, when you're a good person, when you seek to deliver value each and every day. And this book was a passion project and a challenge by one of my friends to share my journey. And I shared my journey and the things that I did. And this book, I think, was written about 4 years ago. What I did to that point in my life that really helped shape it, and, you know, how to overcome obstacles, and your circle of influence, and how to show up every single day. And all I did was just backtrack and put into this book the things that I did, the simplistic things that I did to move myself from point A to point B, and still showing up the same way, not losing who I am, enhancing who I was, and showing other people how to do the same thing.
So tell me about self-development. So for me, I've been through a period of developing myself in business, developing myself personally as well. So how did self-development change your mindset, change your actions, was there a particular person, someone, an influencer that you tapped into? Was there a particular strategy? And sort of talk me through some of the steps that you got to being a little bit more resilient and stronger.
Well, my first business coach, Jeffrey Combs, who I hired back in 2013, you know, he taught me so much about my mindset and the toxic relationships that I had in my life, the relationship that I had to improve with my money and my language with money, and just communication skills, like, you know, rather be respected than liked. And that was the opposite. I wanted to be liked rather than respected. So I had to, but people can still like you and respect you at the same time.
Mm.
So, coaching with him over a year and a half really, really helped. But also it showed me the power of what can happen if you invest in yourself. The best investment someone can make is in their own self.
Absolutely.
And there were a lot of books, but there were two books that really stood out to me that helped me on my journey. Number one is a book called Go for No by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton. And, Andrea has since become a friend of mine. And it says, yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. So, normally people, when they hear the word no, they crawl up into a ball and they sulk and cry and, the world is ending. And then I kind of flipped the script on that, fall in love with no so you can then get to yes. So I started going after all the no's because I knew every no I got, I was one step closer to a yes. And that's when I really started to see my business increase. But the other book was something that truly helped me with my money mindset. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich. And that book is by Wallace D. Wattles. It was the first money mindset book ever written in 1910. This book is 100. This book is 110 years old, and it is still.
Most people use the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich, which I'm a big fan of. But this was even before that.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill was inspired by Wallace D. Wattles, and the simple message from that book is, instead of living in a world of comparison and competition, live in a world of creation and collaboration. That is the science of getting rich. So I realized the more that I connect, the more that I create, the more that I collaborate, the more impact and the more income I can create.
That's fascinating. Can I just flip back to the first book, Go for No? So I have interviewed, I don't know how many people on this podcast. I can't even think, 50 people, 60 people or something. And one of the things that successful people have based their success on is around sales. And a lot about sales is either accepting a no and moving on, i.e. cold calling, you make 100 calls, etc., or trying to influence the no into a yes, which is sales orientated as well. Did your mentors, did you have any sort of training in sales to keep you that resilient against the no?
Well, I mean, when I was a personal trainer, I personal trained for close to 17 years. And over those 17 years, I logged close to 65,000 hours of one-on-one time with people. So I learned the power of human connection, but not through persuasion, through active listening. Because you can close any sale if you actually listen to what the person wants. And when someone doesn't want something, you're not going to close them. So I had someone on the phone earlier today, and I said, how can I serve or assist you? And they flat out said, well, I'm not really sure. Now, when someone says they're not really sure, there's not really anywhere I can take that conversation, because if someone doesn't have clarity on what they want to achieve, there's no way I can help them. Mm-hmm. So I basically said, well, if I could ever be of service or assistance, stay in touch and reach out whenever is good for you. Have a great day. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince myself that I can convince this person when they don't want to be convinced.
Yeah.
But yet there was a person last night when I said, what are you looking to do? And I said, grow my business, have more connections. And I said, well, I can help you. And I went through how I can help. And then they said, let's do it. So it's listening. It's asking people questions and listening to their answers.
Yeah.
And then curating a conversation around something that they want to hear, not something that you want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listening and active listening is massive in business. And
Yes.
if more businessmen listened to their clients or their targets or prospective clients, they would be a lot more successul. 100% agree. So let's go into your connection in. So let's talk about your networking marketing in LinkedIn. So why did you choose LinkedIn as a platform, first of all?
So when I initially was growing my network marketing business, I did the traditional thing that people should never do, which is friends and family. The number one rule I tell people, if you're going to get involved in network marketing, leave your friends and family alone. I luckily came out unscathed with some of my friendships and my family. I realized that I'm like, I don't want to prospect these people. So I did the next thing that people are traditionally taught, which is using Facebook and Instagram to socially brand yourself, to sell a product and sell the company. And I did have some success early on, but in 2015, the platforms changed, and I wasn't getting the type of engagement or feedback and response that I once was back in the day. And I remember something that one of my first mentors said to me. And she said, Scott, you need to look yourself in the mirror and you got to ask yourself, how are you going to connect with yourself today? And it was one of those light bulb moments. I'm like, oh my God, that's it. If I'm going to build a business, and I'm a businessman, I'm a trainer, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a group fitness instructor, I'm a gym owner. I need to talk to other people that fit one into those 4 buckets. And I said, where can I find them? And I said, aha, LinkedIn. And I had a profile. I started it back in 2009, but I never did anything with it. And I said, you know what? Let me get on there and see if I can find people just like me. So I went on there, changed my profile around, started searching, started connecting, started messaging, and people started writing back. Sure, let's talk. Let's hop on a call. And I started having call after call after call, literally 30, 40 a week. Still to this day, I have at least 20 calls every single week. Still, 5 years later. So my business started to grow. So I reached out to a friend of mine in the same organization that I was a part of. And I said, Joey, listen, you got to get on LinkedIn. I said, I think I struck oil. Because every person in business or sales strives on connection and generating conversation. And most people were kind of posting and praying and scrolling and trolling on Facebook and Instagram. That wasn't building their business. You got to get people on the phone or on a Zoom. You got to create that connection. So I taught him what I was doing of what I knew at the time. And I said, let me know what happens. A week later, he texted me and he said, all he wrote was, call me. So I called him and I said, what's up? And he said, dude, whatever you're doing, it really works. He goes, I have 14 appointments booked this week. I was like, really? And he said, yeah. He said, you should teach this. Like, people could really benefit from this. So it was another light bulb moment. And I realized that I created something that filled the void that a lot of people in business had. And that void was, they're not speaking to enough people. They're not creating enough genuine connection. They don't know how to use LinkedIn, and they don't know how to talk to people. And I said, you know what? If I can put some structure around this, just like I would a personal training program or nutritional program, I could have a legitimate business. So in February of 2016, I launched my website. I launched my beta video program and my one-on-one coaching, and I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. So what type of people do you help? Do you help entrepreneurs? Do you help like larger businesses? What's your sort of?
All. I mean, I actually just got hired by a division of Fidelity Bank, which is a financial services company in the States, and they're global as well. I'm training 150 of their sales associates, their financial services professionals, how to leverage LinkedIn. So I work in environments as big as that. I worked with a mom and pop sales organization and their 3 sales reps, and then individuals, entrepreneurs, business coaches, network marketers, podcasters, anyone that is requiring the strategy of how to leverage LinkedIn to create more connection, to create more conversations, to create more sales without selling or pitching. Those are the people that I typically work with.
So it's really interesting. So I've in the last 3 months, I've targeted LinkedIn a lot more for my business interests, and it's interesting when you're approaching somebody and you're DMing them, or you're having conversations about a post or whatever. The appetite that there is for people to actually respond to that, it was quite I suppose enlightening. It was quite a discovery for me that there are people out on LinkedIn that really want to, they want to sell. Some want to sell. Some spam, which is just awful. DMing with a spam message, but just genuinely connecting with people. For example, a fellow coach of mine, I got recommended to her, and we've now struck up a really nice, good relationship. And I've emailed her about considering this and me considering that, and it really, it's inspiring what you can actually do on LinkedIn now, which I think Facebook has kind of become a little bit saturated. I think pockets of Facebook still work very well. So Facebook groups for specific areas work very well, but I think for reach and for conversation, I think LinkedIn is exactly where it is.
You know, I always tell people that Facebook is the barbecue of social media, and Instagram is the reality TV show of social media.
Go and break that down for me.
Well, Facebook is where people go to hang out.
Right.
Like a barbecue.
Yeah.
And Instagram is a reality TV show. That's where people go to watch other people's Instagram stories and look at other people's lives and what are they up to. And you just watch along. You just view everything of their life, wishing it was theirs and yours. Where LinkedIn, it's a global networking event every single time you log on. I have clients in over 7 different countries now. Yeah. Because it's a global platform. I could search for people anywhere in the world and connect with them. That's the beautiful thing about it. So I'm not limited to where I live. You know, when I log on to LinkedIn, there's 660 million people that I can now access and connect to.
And do you use ads at all? LinkedIn ads?
So Facebook, LinkedIn, did you say LinkedIn ads?
LinkedIn ads.
LinkedIn ads have the worst click-through rate and CPC, the cost per click, of any social media platform. Oh, really? I do not recommend it at all. Everything that I've built out and teach is on the free platform of LinkedIn. I don't pay for premium, recruiter, or navigator. Everything is done through the organic platform.
And just to make this completely crystal clear for my listeners, because some of them might want to come out and reach out to you if they want to pursue LinkedIn as a sort of business or a career help. What do you do on LinkedIn? Is it stimulating conversation? Is it engaging with people? You don't have to tell me all your strategies, but just give us a bit of a flavor of what distinguishes your coaching on LinkedIn from someone who might just log on and look at some posts every 2 or 3 times a day.
So let me just tell you this. I don't believe that anyone is a LinkedIn coach. Okay. I don't believe there are LinkedIn experts. The only expert on LinkedIn is LinkedIn. There are people that just utilize it the right way. And what I can tell you is people may coin me and may say, you know, Scott, you're a LinkedIn expert. And they may say that. But in all reality, that is not who I am. I've chosen to use LinkedIn to use that as my platform to basically connect with my audience. I am a human connection expert. That's what I teach.
Okay.
So I don't want anyone to have these smoke and mirrors. You see these people, LinkedIn experts, I can redo this. Don't buy into that stuff. It's all crap.
Okay.
The best coaches are the ones that went first. You know, the fact is, I'm one of the only people to have a #1 best-selling book on the LinkedIn platform. I literally wrote the book on it. I have over 420 written recommendations. So I have the credibility. So what I talk about is my program consists of what I call the 4 layers of LinkedIn. So if you think of a layer cake, it's got 4 layers.
Yeah.
You have the big, medium, small, and the micro. The big part of LinkedIn is your profile. That's where it starts. So when Microsoft bought LinkedIn out back in 2014, they embedded search engine optimization or keyword searching on all of our files. So if your profile is not filled out from top to bottom, you don't have a proper background photo, headshot, title, about me section, experience section, licenses and certifications, volunteer experience, education, skills and endorsements, recommendations. If all of those sections are not filled out properly, you are invisible. So this is not a pitch or a sell, but I created something called the LinkedIn Profile Optimizer. So if anyone goes to my website, scottaaron.net, 2 T's and 2 A's, you'll see free infographic. It's a simple 1 sheet. It gives you 6 steps to starting to optimize your profile. That's where it begins. Because again, you want to appear in more searches. You want more profile visits. That's how it's going to expand your reach.
Yeah.
The second layer is building your ideal network. So you're allowed 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. I don't want followers. I want connections. Anyone can follow anyone. So you see those people that have like 200, 300,000 followers on LinkedIn. 10% of them might be quality people. The other 90% are just people that are just following them.
Yeah.
I've grown my network organically from 500 to almost 28,000 in the last 3.5 years from scratch. Hand selecting people that I am going to connect to and I am going to connect with. So I don't let just anyone into my network. I have to see a viable connection. How could I add value to that person's network, and what value could they add to my network? How could we assist each other? So I'm very cautious and very specific about who I let in. And that's the one thing that I want to say to the listeners is really think about who's your ideal avatar. Who's your ideal client? Who's your ideal connection? Who are you going to have the most relatable conversation with after never speaking before ever in your entire life? When you get that kind of clarity, you'll know exactly who to connect with.
Yeah.
The third layer is messaging. And, Mark, you touched on it earlier, these drunkalog sales messages that we get, they're 18 paragraphs long, check this link out, watch this video, schedule a call here, sell, sell, sell. That's the easiest way to get blocked on LinkedIn. So if you are going to message someone yourself, I've created something called the magic formula. It's a 3-step process. Step 1, you mention the person's name. Hey, Mark, great to connect to you. Step 2, you mention the reason why you're reaching out without selling or pitching, lowering the drawbridge of why you're connected. I noticed that you had a business podcast, as do I. Would love to hear about it. Share more about mine to see how we can best support each other here on LinkedIn. So I did 2 things there. I bridged the gap between Mark and myself and why we should connect. We both have podcasts. So he's going to read that and organically say, you know what? That does make sense. I should connect with Scott. But number 2, I used the most powerful word, one of the most powerful words in the English language, support.
Okay.
It's been proven scientifically that when someone reads the word support, it triggers a chemical release of something called oxytocin from your brain. That is your feel-good brain chemical. So someone is feeling good as they're reading your message, which is lowering the wall of resistance
Mm.
and raising the level of connection.
Mm.
The third part is you finish with a CTA, a call to action.
Right.
Questions lead to answers, statements lead to nowhere. If I just say, Mark, let me know when's good to talk, you're never going to let me know because I never asked.
Mm. Mm.
But if I say, do you have any time this week or next week for a call? You're going to get back to me.
Yeah.
So you state the person's name, reason for reaching out, any time for a call. That simple. The fourth and most important layer is content creation.
Okay.
LinkedIn right now is the #1 social media platform for organic reach and organic visibility. People just aren't using it.
Yeah.
So you want to produce one piece of content a day.
Okay.
I don't care if it's a post. I don't care if it's an article or a video.
Okay.
One piece of content a day that needs to do one of two things. Number one, educate your audience on something they don't know or they want to know about. Inform them of something that has helped you that could help them in their business. Don't talk about things that you want to talk about. Talk about things that they actually want to hear. So, Mark, I call this the push-pull method.
Okay.
So the push is you warmly reaching out to people every single day and then getting on a call.
Mm.
The pull is you providing value-added content, leaving your audience better every single day, pulling them closer and closer to you with every single post. If people can commit to doing those 4 simplistic things without even working with me, without even reading my book, you will see better results on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you very much for that. So, so you're a member and contributor to the Forbes Coaching Council. So tell me a little bit about that.
It was an invitation only. One of my old marketing managers recommended me to Forbes to be a contributor for lead generation using LinkedIn. I had to interview and fill out an application. They accepted, and it's been about 2 years, and it's been great. It's a great community to be a part of, and it just adds to the credibility of my business portfolio that Forbes thinks highly of my work to want to include me into their coaching council.
So what's your actual role in the council?
It's just content contributor.
Okay. Okay. And what's that, articles on LinkedIn, or is it articles on Forbes?
Forbes.com, LinkedIn, basically anywhere where they have a presence.
Oh, awesome. You also are a podcaster.
I am.
Business podcast?
Yeah, it's called Network Marketing Made Simple. So it's geared towards entrepreneurs, anyone in marketing, online business. I launched it in November of 2018 as just a whim. Let me start a podcast, and I just released episode 172 this past week, and I'm approaching 65,000 downloads. So really, really excited about it.
So do you interview, or do you do solo stuff?
So the first 50 episodes was all solo. It was just me giving little tangible tips and takeaways and trainings. And then I switched to, and I was doing 2 tip episodes a week, Mondays and Thursdays. My episodes are still Mondays and Thursdays. And then I was doing interviews on Mondays and solo episodes on Thursdays for about the next year. And then obviously when the world went into a little bit of a transition period this past March, I actually doubled down on the interviews. So right now it's only interviews Mondays and Thursdays, and eventually I'll get back to the solo episodes, but people have heard enough of me. I want to make it about everybody else.
That's interesting. Yeah, so sounds like a very similar path to me. I also started as a solo stuff, and then started doing interviews, and I do 1 interview a week as well. So yeah. So is it a useful social? Because people call it a social media platform as well. I don't see my podcast as a social media platform. I see it more as a educating or informing.
It's a tool.
or helping people, supporting people?
It's a tool. It's, you know, a podcast. Anyone that wants to run a successful online business, they need to have three things. They need to have a website, they need to have a social media brand, and they need to have a podcast. That is the way that you really set yourself up, because you want to be the authoritative figure with what you're doing. And the way that you add credibility and the authority behind what you do is being omnipresent. So if someone searches, you know, anyone for, you know, anyone on LinkedIn, I'm going to come up in various different things. And not only my podcast highlights that, but I've been on 100 different podcasts in the last 3 years, talking nothing LinkedIn. So this is what I do. And yeah, podcast, nothing like a social media platform. It's a way to build trust, rapport, relationship, and that know, like, and trust factor with your audience, where you can grow a business just by delivering value-added content every single episode.
Excellent, excellent. So last question is, so we've talked about a lot of your different businesses that you're involved in. How do you manage so many different hats? How do you manage so many different areas that you work on? Do you have very good people around you? Do you have managers? How do you sort of distribute, and how do you impact all those different businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I've created systems, and I'm very scheduled. I'm very organized. I'm very intentional with what I do every day. And yes, I have an amazing team of about 9 people that work behind the scenes to make sure everything gets done. I have marketing managers. I have a CFO. I have a financial advisor. I have a business accountant. I have social media help. I have customer service. So I only have two arms and 2 hands. I can't do everything myself. So I believe in outsourcing. If you want to expand a business and you want to expand a brand, you have to bring those thoroughbreds, as my buddy Chris Carter says. You have to invite those thoroughbreds into your business. So I don't have one person doing 7 things, because that's how things get diluted. I find someone that's good at one thing and I have them just do that. So I don't want the person that's running and engaging in my private Facebook group. I don't want them doing that and running my books. I'm going to pay someone to do that. I'm going to pay someone to do that. So it's just making sure that you have the right people in the right areas where you need the most help.
And sort of how have you got return on investment of outsourcing so many different areas of your business?
My business has grown at least 30% in each of the last 3 years.
Awesome.
So, and I'm working less. So I'll put it that way. I'm working less and I'm making more. So something I'm doing is working.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Just on that, the systemization, is that because you have done all of the different roles and you know how to systemize it and delegate it? Or is there still, I don't know, let's just take finance, for example. I don't know if you're hot on finance, but like your accountancy side, is that purely outsourced because he's a specialist, and your lawyer or your attorney might be an absolute specialist, but say like a marketing manager, I'm assuming you know what they know, and therefore you can outsource effectively to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's about brainstorming. It's you know, I'm doing like I said, I'm doing that speech for Fidelity, and basically I have one of my content creators. I said, listen, I'm giving these tangible takeaways to the group. I need you to create these documents that have this, that, or the other that I can provide to the group that I'm training. So I tell them, you know, the image of what I want, and the tasks get sent away and they go create. So I've gotten very good at being clear with what I want, delegating what I want, but also making sure that the right people are doing the right work. Now, because I hired an accountant, I want to know everything of what he's doing. I want to know, you know, what I can write off, making sure all my quarterly tax payments are pre-scheduled, even with my financial advisor. Every quarter we meet and we go over financial goals. You know, here's what's going to be going on to the 401k. Here's what's going to be, you know, we're going to start working on this for the profit sharing. So I don't just say, here, I'm going to pay you, go take care of this. If I'm going to pay you, I'm going to make sure I know what you're doing so I can understand what the desired outcome is. And if something needs to be reworked, we're going to jump on a call or jump on a Zoom and we're going to iron it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So thank you very much for this interview. We're nearly wrapping up. I've got 5 questions which I ask all of my guests. Short, sharp questions, but they can have a long answer depending on what you want to tell me. So the first question is, what's the best decision that you made?
God, I would say, honestly, filing for bankruptcy and closing my gym to step into my power, and it's attracted everything else into my life. It's allowed me to be a better father to my son. It allowed me to attract my wife into my life. So if I wouldn't have gotten rid of that gym and gotten out of that rut, I would not be where I am today.
Awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
I've been given a lot of great pieces of advice. Something that I always come back to is what my buddy Cody Schuin said. Always ask yourself, how do you want to be remembered? And always know that your legacy is being left while you're still living, not when you're gone.
So true. So true. That's brilliant. Next question is, who helped you most in your career?
Me. I mean, I had a lot of people along the way, mentors and coaches. I'm the one that's done the work. So I'm going to give myself credit because, again, I've had amazing mentors, amazing coaches. But at the end of the day, you can coach and mentor with all you want. But if you personally don't take the action of what you're learning,
exactly,
you're never going to get there. So, yes, I was taught by great people, but I was responsible for creating the success that I have now because I took the action.
That is absolutely correct. I hear people that I've sort of coached and helped along the way who say, oh, I listened to this influencer, I listened to this influencer, I listened to this influencer, and they've got an array of things that they've saved on their social media platforms.
It's called, Mark, it's called shelf help. That's what it's called.
But you're exactly right. They've got all of the influencers, but then suddenly they're paralyzed by having too much information and never action. Yep. But it's only by actioning do you ever make progress. So 100% agree with you there. Next question. Any regrets?
None. I always move. Everything that has happened to me and for me has happened on purpose. I don't live in regret. I don't hold any anger or resentment because those feelings don't serve me. So I do my best every single day to live in peace, joy, happiness, gratitude, because that fuels all the wonderful things in life.
Fantastic. And last question is, what are you most proud of?
2 things: becoming a father and finding my forever person in Nancy.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And the last one is, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, my website, www.scottaaron.net, or I'm very omnipresent on all of social media. You can just type in Scott Aaron on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'll come up. And then on Instagram, if you're on there, my handle is @ScottAaronLinkedIn, all one word.
Awesome. So thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a fascinating exploration of so many different areas. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you and the opportunity.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.